Every year, thousands of property owners in Victoria open this letter and feel their hearts sink. It's the land tax bill that you all know about. If you own just one investment property, you are probably paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars every year to State Revenue Office just for the privilege of owning land. But what if I told you there is a completely legal way to reduce that bill to $0? Yes, zero land tax in Victoria. And no, this is not a loophole, not a shady trust setup, and not an offshore trick. It's government recognized structure called co-living houses. And if you do it right, your property can be fully exempt from paying land tax in Victoria. Stick to the very end to listen to the full story. Hi, I'm Mohsin Reza. I'm your property mentor and your cash coach. And in the next few minutes, I'll show you how this works and the one mistake that can ruin your exemption instantaneously. Let's start with why so many investors are frustrated right now. Now, Victoria has one of the highest land tax rates in Australia, and over the last few years, the thresholds have dropped and the rates have climbed up. If your land value is above $300,000, you're already paying land tax. At $500,000, it's around $975 a year. At $1 million, it jumps to $3,000. At $2 million, you're looking at more than $10,000 per year. And that's just one property. Now imagine you own 2 or 3 or 4 investment properties, and this balloons up quite quickly. You can easily be paying tens and thousands of land tax every year, and it's one of the biggest hidden costs of property investing in Victoria. But the good news is that the law also makes some exceptions that a lot of people don't know about, and one of those exceptions is for properties used for affordable housing or co-living accommodation. So what exactly is co-living property? Co-living is when you have multiple people living independently in a single property, each with their own bedroom and a lease agreement, while sharing common spaces like kitchen, lounge room, laundry. It's not the same as a shared house. In a shared house, everyone is on a single lease together. In a co-living home, each tenant has a separate agreement, their own lockable room, and pays rent directly to the property manager or a rooming house operator or an owner. Think of this as independent living with shared amenities. In Victoria, co-living is not a new setup. Co-living setups often fall under rooming house or shared accommodation dwellings. They are designed to provide affordable housing options for singles and students or professionals, and while also giving property owners higher rental yields. It's the best of the two worlds. But here's the key point. Under the Victorian Land Tax Act 2005, properties that are officially used and registered as rooming houses or co-living houses may qualify for a land tax exemption. That's right. If your property meets the government criteria, it's not counted as taxable land, even though that you're earning the rent from it. And in some cases, or most cases, the rent is significantly larger than normal properties. And here is why the exemption exists. Now, land tax is applied to properties that are considered non-principal places of residences, typically investment properties. But if your property is used for providing rooming houses or co-living accommodation, it's treated differently. The government recognizes that co-living housing supports affordable accommodation and helps reduce the housing shortage. Again, not a new concept. And in order to encourage investors to offer this kind of housing, the State Revenue Office actually allows an exemption for land used in this way. In simple terms, if your property is officially recognized as co-living property or rooming house and it's compliant with building and council registration, it may not be subject to land tax. That means you can legally hold an investment property, collect rent, and not pay a single cent in land tax because the government sees this as contributing to housing supply rather than just a private investment. Now let's talk about how to qualify for the exemption. The step 1 is the council approval. Your property must be approved by the local council for co-living or rooming house use, typically a Class 1B build. That usually means that you will need a planning permit or a Class 1B build, especially if the house wasn't originally built for multiple occupancy. The second step is the registration. So once approved, you must register your property as a rooming house under Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008. This involves an inspection and a compliance with a rooming house with minimum standard compliance in place that covers fire safety systems, minimum room sizes, locks, ventilations, facilities, amenities, etc. Step 3 is the separate tenancy agreements. Now, each tenant must have their own agreement in place. If you are just renting the entire house to one group, it won't count as co-living property. So head leases in this regards do not work. Step 4, the compliance and the record keeping. Now, keep copies of your permits, your registrations, your certificates of occupancies, your tenancy records. You'll need this if State Revenue Office asks for proof. And mind you, they will. Now, once everything is in place, you can apply for what we call it as a land tax exemption with SRO. And if approved, you'll officially stop paying land tax on that property. Now, if you want this strategy to work, avoid these 4 mistakes, and they can be really costly mistakes. So bear with me till the very end. The first one is not registering with the council. You would see a lot of cowboys who build roaming houses or Class 1B builds without registration. Now, without registration, your property is legally just a share house with no exemptions applied. Technically, it's not even insurance covered. So make sure it's registered properly with the council. Number 2, mixing short-term rentals. If you use the rooms for Airbnb or holidays, it do not classify as co-living accommodation. So the land tax exemption becomes nullified. The mistake number 3 is ignoring the building codes. Even one missing smoke alarms can make your registration invalid, or a smoke alarm that is not connected or interconnected makes it invalid. Mistake number 4, using exemptions purely for tax avoidance. Now, SRO can assess or reassess if they believe you're not genuinely operating a compliant co-living setup. Remember, this exemption exists to support the community housing, not to help investors skip the system. Now, let's see what this means in real numbers. Suppose your property's land value is $800,000. Your annual land tax bill might be around $1,800. Convert that property into a compliant co-living property with setup of 5 tenants paying $300 per week in rent. That's $1,500 per week. It's like you owning 5 properties or 5 tenancies or 5 rentals at the same time. That's $78,000 in rental income per year. Your land tax drops to 0 and your cash flow increases by several $1,000s a year. That's why more Victorian investors are moving towards co-living, and it's a combination of tax efficiency and higher rental yield. So to summarize all of this, if you own a property in Victoria and you're tired of paying higher land tax every year or lower rental yields, co-living might be the smartest strategy to explore. By converting your investment into a registered co-living property, you can create affordable housing, improve your rental yield, and legally reduce your land tax bill to 0. But always remember, this video is only for educational purposes. It's not financial, legal, or tax advice. Everyone's circumstances are different. So please talk to your own confidants, your accountant, your tax advisor, your property advisor, your property lawyer before making any changes. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure to like it, subscribe it, and share it with friends and family, or someone who owns a property in Victoria and is shedding tears because they're paying big land tax bills or are sitting down on really low rental yields. This is Mohsin Reza checking out. Thank you for listening to me today. Take care, stay safe, keep smiling, keep investing. This is Mox checking out. Adios.